Hey, folks, we'll be starting in about 60 seconds, just letting people log in. Thanks. Okay, folks, we're going to get going. So thank you for being prompt. We're going to respect everybody's time. So welcome to today's webcast, Creating a Consumer Candidate Experience on Top of Your Existing ATS, sponsored here by Jive. My name is Ivan Casanova. Hang on one second, folks. My name is Ivan Casanova, so I run marketing and product here at Jive, and I've been doing this for about 20 years. I really love to talk about how organizations can adopt new technologies, you know, I love Twitter, and there's always kind of an ongoing conversation on my Twitter handle at @MeIvan, usually talking about HR tech or all things technology-centric. You know, today's webinar is a little bit different. So typically these last about a half an hour. If you've ever dialed into one of these before, we'll do Q&A at the end. Usually we get the question, yes, we will email a copy of this out at the end. So all the kind of standard logistics. If you have a question, please kind of log into the QA section of the WebEx application and send us in, and we'll definitely answer questions at the end. You know, today, this presentation is all about really kind of helping you guys understand, you know, what we think the state of the art is from a candidate experience perspective. I think it's a term that gets used a lot in the industry. It probably hasn't been as defined as precisely as it should be and it could be, and that's really what we're going to try to do today. We're really going to try to hone in on what we think really is the spirit of what the whole idea of candidate experience is. And why we think it's such an important topic, you know, for people who work in talent acquisition and recruiting to really think about. And then we'll try to give you some practical takeaways to help you guys start to really formulate some strategies inside of your organization. So, you know, we're going to start with the whole idea, though, that software in general has transformed every bit of our lives from, you know, from the way that we have access to any piece of information that we'd ever want at our fingertips. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Uber. I live here in New York City, and I can pick up my smartphone, I can touch a button, and a car will pull up outside my office and drive me home or to my next appointment that I may have. And, you know, software like Google, software like Uber, I can buy anything I want on Amazon. Even when I go online and I pay my bills, you know, the experience is a really awesome experience. It's been optimized to make it really simple and really elegant for me to use. But I think we miss the point a lot about what these experiences actually represent. You know, if you just take the Uber example, once I touch that button on my phone and a car shows up, it takes me to where I want to go, I get out of the car. We forget about all of the software that powers that experience. Geolocation software, billing software, all of the workflow associated, the algorithm to find me the car that I want that's nearest to my location, the mapping software which shows the driver where to go. All of this software has nothing to do with me touching that button because the user experience for me to call a car on Uber, or for me to pay my bill on my banking system or my credit card bill, or to look up information on Google, or to buy something on Amazon. The user experience has been optimized for that endeavor, right? I don't have to think about any of that technology. I don't have to even worry about it. It's been optimized for me to actually go ahead and execute that transaction. That is exactly the opposite way that most career sites actually work, right? One of the real challenges that we're going to talk about here today from a candidate experience perspective is that career sites actually make you think about the technology, right? They make you think about stuff like, what type of device am I actually on? And therefore, do I have to change devices to actually go ahead and apply for a job? Or do I have to pinch and scroll on the screen? Or do I have to interpret words that are on my career site because I don't really know what they mean as a job seeker, right? All of this is putting technology between you, your organization, and the jobs you need to fill, and the job candidate, the job seeker, right? And that is really the gap, and that has to be filled in our industry if we're truly going to ever reach the heights of speed to hire, time to hire, cost of hire, all the kind of key influence metrics that we worry a lot about. If we're ever going to actually overcome them and start to achieve some velocity in the way that we hire people, I think this is a root cause that has to actually be addressed. And as much as we say that the user experiences that most people have all day, every day in their normal lives are awesome and optimized and work really, really well, and that the experience that we get on most career sites doesn't really live up to those consumer expectations, we now see a steady stream of data that shows from multiple sources that people who are looking for work, who are the users of your career site, the visitors that you want to attract to your career sites, they expect more, right? I thought the folks at CareerBuilder did a really nice job with their 2015 candidate survey this year. Almost 3/4 of the people who are starting a job search basically start with a search on Google. I think a way to think about that for everybody is, are you thinking about Google as the first page of your career site? Because that's really what it is. You know, Elaine Orler and Jerry over at the Talent Board do an unbelievable job in really looking at data from a candidate experience perspective. And these guys over at the Talent Board really are the godfathers of data from a candidate experience perspective. They do an unbelievable job. So I urge everybody to check out the Talent Board and the work that they do with the Candies organization. But in their most recent data that they published, which I thought was really interesting, was only a tiny fraction of people actually say that the recruiters are the ones that influenced their decision about where they want to work. Things like the information that they got online, the branding, the employment branding, locations, the type of company, all of these types of things were much more important about who influenced somebody to actually want to work at an organization. Equally, if you think about the work that Josh Burson does over at Burson by Deloitte, the fact book is one of my favorite things that they come out with every single year. It's chock full of data. And in this year's 2015 fact book, published by Burson, one of the, I thought was the most interesting statistics was your career site was the only source of hire that was growing in the last 3 years. They measured source of hire in 2011. They measured source of hire in 2014. And the only source of hire that went up as a percentage for the people who were surveyed, which was thousands of companies, was career sites. So things like job boards and social media and referrals and all the other types of sources of hire that we think about all went down as a percentage, right? So basically what that means is that today's modern job candidate is basically using the internet as a way to find out about where they want to actually work and what kind of opportunities. And isn't that just like every other user experience that we have out there? Okay? I think about the perfect candidate for my organization, right? You think about that really tough to fill position. You think about that purple squirrel. And I imagine somebody who wakes up in the morning and they are eating their breakfast and they check their email and they get a potentially terrible email from their boss that was written at midnight while they were sleeping, and they have to wake up to this, and they make that emotional connection that it's time for them to start to look for a new job opportunity. They need to change their life. They need to change their career. And you have a very finite window. There's a very small window where that person is going to go online, they're going to do a Google search, they're going to land on your career site, they're going to look at some of the information about your company, they may look up some searches of some actual open positions, they may look at your JDs and your job descriptions online. But I do know one thing, though, about this scenario that I think about as we build software here at Job and we think about the clients that we work with, is that when this person's cereal is done, when he's done with his breakfast, he's going to get up, he's going to get dressed, and he's going to go to work. And maybe he has a good day, and he forgets all about that emotional decision that he made. Or maybe in that moment of truth, right, in that moment of truth, can I capture their attention? And what we've actually started to realize, and this is really some research that comes out of Google and where they partnered with the guys at Forrester to actually come up with some really fascinating research about what they're calling micro moments. You know, if we think about the way today's internet-driven consumers actually act, we act in a series of micro moments, right? We act in really small increments. And our decision-making and our preference shaping and the brands that we love and the ideas that we hold true, okay, are not some big jumps and big leaps of faith. Instead, they're happening in really small chunks. I love this research because it starts to attach these ideas to the way that we should be thinking about winning the hearts and minds of candidates in today's really competitive environments, right? If we think about you're out with some friends and somebody asks you what the score of the baseball game was last night, we would reach for our phone, we would pull it out, we would open up our favorite sports app, and we would give our friend the score from last night's game, right? In that micro moment, when somebody asks you what the score of last night's game is, we act with some immediacy. We want to know right now. We demand that the app that we choose gives us the score that we wanted, and we're probably loyal to a specific app that we know is going to give me the score that I want. It is direct correlation to the way that people should be thinking about candidates online. They're going to do a search, they're going to want to get some results, they're going to want to find the information that they need, and they're going to actually attach themselves to that brand. And that's all going to happen in a very short amount of time. And you have this opportunity to actually go capture their attention. At Jibe, we start to think about what we call the new candidate journey. If you go back 20 years ago, at the advent of the online resume, we started to see a pretty simple model where people posted advertisements on job boards asking people to apply for jobs. And that model's been pretty consistent over the last 20 years, right? And lots of companies and lots of technology has been invented to try to optimize that model. But I actually think that all of the advancements in the internet technology, the advancements in smartphones and mobility, has actually started to build an expectation for a new candidate journey. And it all starts with the internet, because that's where everything starts today. Whether it's paying your bills or hailing a cab or buying a new camera or finding out the score of the game from last night's game, it all starts on the internet. And that's exactly where we see job search today. So people are looking for information on Google. They're typing in just enough information to find them the right piece of information. And typically, we as an industry are seeding those searches that happen for jobs online to aggregators. And then we're buying that traffic back from those aggregators to try to get a consistent flow of candidates into our career sites. When everything that we need as an industry to place well in candidates' organic searches is available to us today, why can't every company that does brand building work on optimizing their job openings for their candidates online? So that if a candidate searches for a job in a specific location with a specific category of a job, they should land on a landing page. That landing page should have calls to action that ask them to capture some personal information. That landing page should be relevant to the job search that they're doing. So that if somebody types in sales job in Chicago, Illinois, for a specific company, it lands you on a landing page that shows sales jobs in Chicago, Illinois, and maybe something about working in Chicago and what it works to mean with sales for your organization. And if it's not, make it really easy for them to search your site, because we all have grown up with Google and we associate finding information with that search box. So really think about what the experience is for somebody who's searching for a job on your site. All of this is about, in that moment of truth, in that small window of time, how can I actually capture candidate demand? And where for 20 years or more, the only call to action that we ever had was apply for a job, today, in the new candidate journey, what we see is potential candidates establishing small, incremental, micro moments of advancements towards applying for a job. So I may not, on the first visit to your career site, apply for a job. I may not find a job that I like, or I may not be ready to apply for a job, but I can share my email address. I may even want to share my email address with some context about the types of jobs or the locations that I care about, and have you send me job opportunities for a sales associate in New York, because those are the types of jobs that I'm looking for, right? So I've shared just a little bit of information, my email address, and now you're sending me a lot of relevant content. We've entered into a nurture relationship where you can nurture that prospect with automation, without any work, without any extra work on your recruiting teams. I can even share my whole profile with you. And lots of technologies have now made it really simple and really easy for me to share my profile with you so that machines can actually match me up with the type of jobs that fit my relevant skill set. All right, so talent network technology, marketing campaigns, job alerts are all part of the nurture phase of the relationship. And then after I've earned the right, after I've built a relationship with this candidate online through a proper set of nurture exercises and activities, then does the candidate become ready to actually apply for the job, right? And you need to make sure you have an apply flow that is simple, doesn't exclude anybody based on what type of device that they may be on, so it supports mobile really well, and an apply flow that if somebody has the intent to actually apply for a job, we're going to make that incredibly easy and incredibly fast so that that process is pretty seamless. Really start to think about all of the steps in this candidate journey as a funnel. You're making it really simple for candidates to find your jobs and interact with you on the internet. You make it really simple for them to enter into a nurture relationship with you, where they're now receiving an ongoing drip of information about jobs and openings in your organization. And then when they're ready and they find the right opportunity and you've presented it to them, that's when they can actually go ahead and make it really easy for them to apply. And I really do like to think at this point that what we're really creating for our clients is a consumer user experience every single time a candidate interacts with your brand. And that really is where you should be thinking about your career site, your talent acquisition strategy. How can I actually go ahead and create that consumer user experience? Now, I will say this, that for most applicant tracking systems, which sit at the heart of most recruiting organizations, they were never designed to build a consumer-level candidate experience. They were never built with candidate experience in mind at all. And actually, in many regards, applicant tracking systems have become a bit of a ball and chain to our talent acquisition strategies. They impose legacy workflows. They sometimes expose branding that isn't in line with your corporate message or your value proposition as an organization. They typically make it really hard for clients to enter into a nurturing relationship with you. They don't really have a way to capture passive candidates. And for many of the applicant tracking systems that are out there today, maybe the ones that you're using today, you may not be fully optimized for mobile. And I think the reason that the applicant tracking system software is not ideally suited for the new candidate journey is because its design was never intended for that type of activity. Applicant tracking systems are back office software. They were designed as what we call systems of record. The focus of an applicant tracking system is in database and workflow and compliance. It's back office software. You know, if we think about the last, 20 years in our business, it really hasn't moved that much from what features and functionalities are actually part of applicant tracking system software. Now let's compare that system of record database workflow perspective to the software that we use every single day, to the social media software that we use, to the e-commerce software that we use, to all of those awesome experiences that I talked about at the very beginning of the presentation. All of those systems, which are just as complex as your applicant tracking system, by the way, and sophisticated, but they're built to delight their users. They are built as what I call systems of engagement, okay? And those systems of engagement are optimized for the user. They are built with the user in mind. So whether it's hailing a cab or buying a camera online, those systems of engagement are built with the user and the user interaction model as its primary design focus. The applicant tracking system is designed as a database workflow engine as its design focus. So my advice to everybody is to really think about your recruiting software as a system of engagement and not as a system of record. Now, the applicant tracking system world continues to evolve, and there are new entrants that have emerged in the applicant tracking system space every single day. What we typically talk about with our clients, though, and a really significant hurdle, is the whole idea of ripping and replacing existing applicant tracking system software with a new version. It's really costly from a dollars perspective, and it also introduces a lot of risk to the organization. Anytime that you replace back-end software with a new piece of back-end software, typically that takes a really long time, it costs a lot of money, and it drags in a new level of risk to the organization that potentially you may not be really ready for. So we really like to think about how can I layer a system of engagement platform on top of my existing applicant tracking system as a way to get the best of both worlds for your organization. And that really is what we've built here at Jive and our focus as an organization. So you can think of first that the applicant tracking system still is that system of record, right? So how can you take all of the information that is living inside of your applicant tracking system and unlock it to share the value across the organization for your candidates and for your recruiters? So think about what that extensible hub is that's going to unlock data from the ATS. And it's going to take that job data, and it's going to make sure that it's used well for the right reasons, in the right way, on search engines, on job boards, on social media. The advertising platforms of today's internet. How can I use the data from my applicant tracking system, the jobs that I have open, as marketing content to drive and meet the demand of candidates as they're out there on the internet looking for work? And once I capture that candidate demand, how can I drive them to not my career site, but to a recruiting engine that has dynamic calls to action, a recruiting engine that has a simple way for me to drill in and find the perfect opportunity for me, a recruiting engine that is personalized and tailored to the user. And how can I drive them to a recruiting engine that makes it easy for the candidate to enter into a nurture relationship with my organization, that makes email marketing, it makes machine learning and drip campaigns a standard part of the recruiting life cycle? And how can I use that extensible hub to personalize the actual application process to make sure that I capture every single applicant, no matter where they came from or what device they happen to be on? And that is really what we've built here at Jive. The core value proposition of our company and the reasons that we have the clients that we have is because we are able to unlock the data that sits inside of your applicant tracking system and make it extensible on all the different marketing platforms that you have out there on the internet to attract those types of employees. And that's the work that we've been doing for a number of years. So drilling in, I think for us, one of the keys for organizations to think about today is how can I transform my boring old career site into a powerhouse recruiting engine? Dynamic calls to action using job and location data. In the landing page example that we show here, I can actually go ahead and get top categories, nearby locations. I've got integrated job seeker nurturing, and all on a consumer-grade user experience and UI that works on any device. And what we're really seeing now is this convergence of these ideas around candidate demand, recruiting site calls to action, candidate nurturing, and candidate conversion in one platform that sits on top of your existing applicant tracking system and unlocks that value that sits inside of those applicant tracking systems. So now would be a good time if you had some questions. And if you wanted to go ahead and type them into the Q&A bar. So typically what we do at the end of these presentations is we'd like to give you guys some sound bites for you to think about the presentation. So number one is, everyday consumer internet experiences have changed the expectations of consumers. These internet consumers live in a series of micro moments. Your applicant tracking system is a system of record as opposed to a system of engagement. How will you as an organization build for the new candidate journey and unlock the value of the data to transform your career site into a recruiting site? And we've put all this information into an awesome new ebook for people And tomorrow we're going to email everybody with a recording link. We can actually go ahead and listen to this again because you enjoyed it so much the first time that you really want to do. But no, but in all seriousness, if you want to share it with some folks in your organization or you want to go back and listen to some specific points of that, we'll send you guys a link. There also will be in that email the opportunity to go ahead and download the new ebook. And a lot of the information that we talked about during this presentation is actually captured in the ebook. So it's a good way for you to start to continue the education that you may have really started here today. So we've got a bunch of questions that came in. Thanks a lot for sending in all those questions. I'm just going to jump right into those Q&A. So the first question that we have is, how does candidate experience impact quality of candidates? Quantity is not my issue. I just need more better choices. That's a great question, and it's a question that we hear all the time. And, you know, I think there's a simple set of ideas that when we talk about the value proposition that for the clients that we work with, we really do think, though, that if you have more candidates and you make your jobs easier to find on the internet and you provide a consumer-level candidate experience, yes, you will get more candidates into your pipeline. But what we also find is that the integrated notion of a consumer candidate experience along with nurturing really has produced much higher quality metrics from hires. Even anecdotally, outside of the Jive world, what we found in some of the research that we've been reading is that investing in candidate experience significantly impacts retention, which means that you have a much higher one-year retention rate if you're invested in candidate experience because you've got a broader pool of candidates to choose from. You're going to make better hires. Those hires are going to be more productive employees who are going to stay in your organization longer. But that's really, really an important end game perspective to think about. So what does it mean to unlock the value of your ATS? How hard is it to integrate with applicant tracking systems? So you know, that's really the Jive secret sauce. We've been working on weaponizing and mechanizing the whole notion of integrating with your applicant tracking system. But it really is a key differentiator for us. As an organization, we support most of the major ATS platforms that are out there, and building candidate experience solutions on top of existing applicant tracking systems is our mission in life. And it's, you know, there isn't really an applicant tracking system that if you want to talk to us about, we really want to talk to you about that. The next question is around how do we measure candidate experience? So, you know, that's a question that I get all the time. I'm definitely going to point back at the work that the Talent Board does and look at some of the data that these guys have published over the years in the Candies organization. So definitely go check out that stuff because those guys have done some really, really, you know, groundbreaking work. We as an organization here at Jive, we definitely make analytics part of our platform. So we work with all the clients that we have. We measure how many people are coming into their website, what types of devices they come, where they're actually hitting their website from. Is it from Google? Is it from some other type of advertisement? Is it from job boards? And we track that candidate through every single step in the process, and we present that flow of data back to recruiters in the analytics. So you can see if you're losing people at the very first homepage or you're losing them on search. Our analytics go all the way through the apply flow. So you can see all the way down to when people actually submit their applications, where that drop-off actually occurs. And that, married with source of hire information, gives the recruiters that we work with and the companies that we work with a pretty holistic view of how to measure candidate experience across the platform. Now, analytics just gives you a window into the current state. What really is the most powerful thing about the analytics is it then gives the organizations that we work with the data that they need to make positive changes to their organization, right? So if we're losing people on mobile, they can make an investment there. If they're losing people on the application flow starts, they can make an investment or a tweak to the process to make sure. If the actual apply flows are too long, they've made some changes there to improve some of those apply flow statistics. And analytics becomes a window into how well the organization actually is operating and how well the candidate experience actually works. And what are the economics? The last question that we got, and by the way, if we'll take any more questions that we have, which is, what kind of economics can we experience? I think that's a great question to ask us. We typically don't share those types of results with folks in these types of public forums, but if you want to reach out one-on-one, we've got some really detailed studies that show kind of the significant cost savings that are available. I think the metrics that you should be thinking about in general, though, are cost of hire and time to hire, and we can share some of the one-on-one data if you want to reach out to us. It really is a significant cost savings opportunities for organizations, and it would be wise to really look at this type of information. So tomorrow you'll get a link. You can listen to the presentation again. You can share it with colleagues, and you'll get a link to our brand new ebook, Creating a Consumer Quality Candidate Experience Without Replacing Your ATS. So thank you very much for showing up here today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.